And good morning from New Zealand. Good evening from the UK. It's midnight hour in the UK. It's the hour for talking ghosts and ghoulies. And you've got JulieSoc here with Myths and Legends from Soc Radio. We're going to be sharing with you tonight some stories from our favourite two Facebook pages. Myths and Legends, Ghosts and Ghoulies from Ghosts, the Paranormal, Supernatural, Myths and Legends. That's GPSML site on Facebook. And of course, the Tell Me a Ghost Story page, the one with all the capital letters. Amazing stories on both pages. And we thank the management and the owners of those pages and the members for letting us share their stories with you throughout these radio shows that we share each week. Also today I'm going to be talking to you about a brand new TV show going out in the USA from A&E, the Rob Lowe Files. Now that's going to be very interesting. I've sat and watched the first episode today that went out on the 3rd of August. And I've got to say they've come up with some amazing evidence on their first investigation of a haunted boys' reformatory in Preston in California. So, some interesting stuff to go off today. So we're going to go back straight to the Tell Me a Ghost Story page. And we're talking today, the theme seems to be today on coincidences. Do these things happen, or is there a reason for them? And what is it about spirit and coincidences? Now, we've talked before about how things seem to happen in a pattern. The old thing of, the old message, if things go wrong, it usually happens in threes. And the number 3 being repeated, or numbers being repeated 3 times over. If you see something once, you'll see it again. Like you buy an old car and you think you're the only one with it, and then when you go out and driving it, you're seeing them everywhere. Coincidences, accidents, etc. So that's our theme for today. And I want to start off with the first story posted by Melanie on Tell Me a Ghost Story. And it's a story from a member, Dolores. And she wants to know, is this coincidence? She's going to let you decide. So let's hear the story and see what we think. She has a story, and it's hard to believe, but very true. She swears it. I'll let you decide. Lived in a house that always had something weird happening. Knocks on the door, a basketball that rolled into the living room when only the oldest child was home. Or would catch something move in the corner of your eye. An elderly friend of theirs from church came over to visit one night, but wouldn't stay long. And as she was leaving, she asked me to follow her onto the porch. She then lowered her voice and asked if I'd ever heard of an Indian doctor and what they do. I said, yeah, of course I have. I think all natives know the stories. She said she believed that we needed one because the house, she felt a deep heaviness. And as she described it, she was very serious. So we followed her advice. Now, I can't say what we did. We did as we were told. The elderly gentleman said that on the 3rd day, the person who was responsible would visit. This person would ask to borrow something. In no way were we to give him or her anything. At 8 o'clock on the 3rd morning, there was a knock at the door. I was alone because the kids were at school and husband was at work. I opened the door and was very surprised to see this person who I know very well. This person had made an hour and a half's drive to come and visit at 8 o'clock in the morning. After talking a bit, I'm just going to say I'm just going to say they even thought it was one person for the sake of typing. Okay, we'll get that bit sorted in a minute. They said they were just driving around and decided to come and visit. Seeing my son's trophies, they asked to borrow one. I said, borrow one? A trophy? Why? They said they had a thing that they were going to do and needed a trophy. I refused. Then they asked to borrow my iron. Again, I refused, saying that I didn't have one. Next, they wanted to borrow one of my daughter's stuffed animals. I again refused. I told this person that I had an appointment to go to, and that I had to get ready, so they finally got up and left. I locked all the doors and stayed inside the rest of the day. My husband came home and I told him what had happened that day. He couldn't believe it. I think he sat there for an hour trying to believe me. So about 4 days later, the elderly gentleman came to visit the house and looked straight at me and said, "Now do you believe?" He laughed and gave me the name of the person who visited. He said that if he had told us first, we would never have believed him, which we wouldn't have. After that, he blessed the house himself, and we never heard another thing. The person did not return for a very long time and would only sit in the lawn chairs because it was nicer. That was the excuse. So was it mere coincidence that they showed up on the third day wanting to borrow something? How did the gentleman who came to us know? Coincidences. You have events going off in your house, you get it investigated, they give you some information, and that information comes to pass. Coincidence, or did they know something? Were they given some information? And why? Why was she not allowed to lend those items to that person? Would they not be returned? Were they after something for another reason? How do you feel when you get events going off like that around your house? Think about it. How many times have you thought of something, got up and been and found it somewhere where it's not supposed to be? She mentions the iron, saying she didn't have one. Now, I've got a story going way back in a house that I used to have. And we moved in and everything was put in its place. And although I don't often iron, I worked at a bingo hall where I had this most horrible uniform. It was more like it wasn't a dress, it was a overall that you wore over a blouse, yes, no matter how much you washed and dried it and hung it out on the line, it still needed ironing, so I had to use it. So I went to work one day, as usual, ironed my shirt, my work overall, came in from work, and I had a visitor coming. Now, he turned up rather late, and let's just say in a slightly inebriated state, but he had a big interview the next morning. And we got up the next morning ready for him to leave, and he asked where was the iron, could he iron his shirt for work? And I automatically went to my bottom kitchen drawer where the iron was always kept. Guess what? It wasn't there. Disappeared, gone. Searched the whole kitchen. Now for the next 6 months, I, my son, my babysitter, my mother, everybody, every now and then, where's that iron? It would come up that I needed to use the iron. I had to borrow my mum's to do my work uniform all the time, and it couldn't be found. Until a family event later in the year, and I wanted a piece of clothing ironed. Never even gave it 2 thoughts that for 6 months I'd been looking for my iron, couldn't find it. I just automatically went, oh, this needs ironing. Went to my bottom kitchen drawer, and there it was. Automatic, picked it up, got the ironing board out, set it up, plugged it in, and you know that moment when you pick it up and you go, hold on, I've been looking for this for 6 months. But it was in its drawer, where it's supposed to have been, where 4 or 5 of us have searched for it for the last 6 months. And I just stood there, and you've never seen anybody iron so fast in your life. Get that thing ironed quickly, get it unplugged, cool it down, get dressed, get ready, put it in its drawer, and I left it there. The next morning when I had to go to work, it was still there. Going back to the gentleman who had the interview, Guess what? On his route to that interview, he had a car accident. And he basically wrote his car off and never made the interview. And then he had to travel all the way back down south to the island, at the Isle of Wight, just off the south coast of England. Was he never meant to make that interview? Was the fact that the iron wasn't there a warning to him not to even bother hitting the road that morning for that interview, because he would have avoided that car accident? If he had taken notice, would he still have his pride and joy? Would he have still had his car? And would we have enjoyed a nice little visit instead of a mad rush overnight so that he could go south for this interview? Strange but true stories. We'll leave it up to you to think about it. And all those other times that you've gone through little bits of accidents, coincidences. Do you take notice of them? Do you pay attention to the messages? Because sometimes there's a reason why you should. Okay, next one. Let's keep it going. Now, this one is more of a psychic question, or mediumistic. Let's see what you think. Deborah is asking again on the Tell Me a Ghost Story, and she's over in the Huron in the United States, and she asks, how is it possible to hear your boyfriend's voice at home when you know for a fact he's gone to work? You're home alone. She says this happens a lot to her in the morning, and she has even gotten up to see who is actually there. Now then, we've all heard our name called at some point, but have you heard it called when you're alone? And yes, you can have a psychic link to your loved ones. It doesn't mean he's calling your name in the house. It could mean he's simply thinking of you at work. Your name has come up at work, or his psyche is thinking of you. Maybe he forgot to say goodbye that morning. Maybe he's thinking, oh, I should have given you a nudge. You should have gotten up for an appointment. Take notice when these things happen, when you hear your voice, your name called, or you hear the voice of somebody you know, whether they are still living or whether they have passed on. Because again, there's a reason for it. And Deborah, take note when those times happen. Ask your boyfriend, were you thinking about me today? Did my name come up at work? Was there something you forgot to tell me this morning before you left? Ask him. And you might find out that, oh yeah, I was having my 10 o'clock and I thought, oh damn, I should have woke you up for work. Or I should have let you lie in a bit more. Whatever it is. But have a chat with your boyfriend and just see if at that moment, sometime through that morning, he had been thinking about you and you heard his voice psychically. Think of twins who know when another is going through pain or upset, and yet they're half a world apart. Think about those who have, the old saying, the coming out in sympathy. When you know a child is upset, how many mothers have gone racing off to school because they had the horrible feeling something had happened to their child, to be found out they'd had an accident at school? We've all done it. Those little hints and little bits of information that we get psychically because we're connected to those loved ones around us. How does it work? Well, think about it as a radio station. You're tuned in, and whether you're conscious, unconscious, subconscious, you are connected at all times to those loved ones around you and to those in spirit. When mother has passed and you've had a particularly close relationship, you can't just turn it off. You can't turn off that connection. So the next time you're upset or crying, Mum automatically wants to come and give you a shoulder to cry on, or a pat on the back to say well done. that vibration, the link between you is still there. And they come to let you know. Or when you're crossing the road and you're not looking where you need to be going, and you get that little tap on the shoulder that pulls you back or wakes you up out of that daydream that tells you you should be paying attention and the kettle's boiling and you're about to boil water over. Little things like that. They're not coincidences, they're not accidents. It's the connection between us as loved ones. And we often hear it, yes, in the dark of night, because somewhere it's daytime, somewhere our loved ones are thinking about us, whether it's across the other side of the world or across the veil from spirit realm. Communication psychically and mediumistically. Psychically is the connection between those in life, those here, the energy between people. You've all felt when somebody gets too close and invades your personal space and you're trying to back off. Or when you want to know how you can connect with somebody who seems to be a little bit distant. And you can always sense when those people back off when you're getting too close. Oh, she was a bit standoffish today. She didn't want to talk to me. How do you know? Because you sense it. How do you know when a new workmate is somebody you can trust? Because that vibration automatically links in. We are constantly judging our interactions with other people at all times of the day. You might not like to say it. You might say, oh, I don't judge anybody. I love everybody the same, or I treat everybody the same. But the minute you meet a new person, you automatically judge. You can't help it. Your senses are out there, your aura is out there, and it's automatically sensing whether you can trust this person, whether you like this person, whether this person is honest. Your body automatically gives you that information about that other person. And when you're linked so closely to a loved one, you can sense when they're thinking about you, when they've had an accident, or when they're not feeling too well, or they're simply lying to you. All these things are come through our senses. And if you practice it, you can work out where those voices come from. When you're in the supermarket and you hear your granny's voice, take notice why. What's going off around you? What do you need to be doing that you're not doing? Where should you be paying attention? Deborah, I hope that answers your question. Okay, and we'll go on to one more story, and then after the break, I'm going to talk about this new show that's coming out on A&E in the United States with Rob Lowe. But for now, Melody, again from the Tell Me a Ghost Story site. Melody asks, hi, I've got a question. It's been bothering me for a while. Have any of you been woken up abruptly by a voice or maybe a conversation out of your sleep? Sound familiar? When you go back and remember or to analyse it, I guess you can recall certain details, she says, like where the conversation's taking place or something like that. I'm just really confused because this happened to me again. Melody shares, I'll try to describe it. My boyfriend and I... My boyfriend and children rented out a room in a hotel a few nights ago. At about 11:30 or so, we turned off everything because we were going to bed. The TV, lights, everything's turned off. I was startled out of my sleep by a man's voice. He was very loud, saying, I wouldn't worry about. At that, I sat up really quick, and it stopped. But when I rolled over to see who it was and where my boyfriend was, everyone was sound asleep. The light on the nightstand was on. I was really confused. I remember seeing the leg of a person standing in the bathroom. This is the reason the voice was so loud, I think, because he wasn't mad, just talking. Pretty sure he was standing. A white male with red hair, because the hair on his legs was red. The bathroom doesn't face the room at all, which is more bizarre because I'd seen it at a low angle. I laid down, didn't bother turning out the light, and I fell asleep. I woke up again about 6:30 a.m. All lights were off. My boyfriend said he never got up during the night, and the kids didn't either. Can you help me out with this? Okay, Melody. Well, first things, of course, hotels, motels, whatever. Yes, cancel out the fact that it may have been somebody next door. Okay? If you can hear, you know what the walls are like in hotels, motels, etc. You can hear things through the walls. If that's not the case, and it's hard to do it after the event because you can't exactly go and see who was in the next rooms. But if you can cancel out all those physical explanations, as you say, everybody was asleep, lights were out when you went to bed, when you woke up it was on, but there was somebody in the bathroom. Okay, could it be that you were being asked to pay attention to something? The message was, I wouldn't worry about. So what were you worrying about that afternoon, that evening, before you switched off the lights and went to bed? Was there a particular topic on your mind? And do you have a red-haired loved one in spirit that just wants you to let you know in your dream state, which is when we're most open to spirit communication, because all the fears and foibles, all the nightmares and horror stories are out of our mind, and we're wide open to spirit communication. Think of that voice. Think of the description of the person you saw. Is it familiar? Is it somebody your loved one knows in spirit? And why were you worried? Was there something playing on your mind at that night that you were trying to work out? Was it about your destination? You were in a hotel. Why? Where were you going? What were you worrying about on that journey? Was it more than likely a loved one or a guide or a friend of yourself or your partner? Just let you know. Calm down. Nothing to worry about. Unless you get off back to sleep for a peaceful night's rest. Think about it. There's an explanation in there somewhere. We can only discuss options here because we're not talking one-to-one. If we were talking one-to-one, maybe I could discuss with you your loved ones in spirit, etc., or those of your family that needed a little bit of help getting through. And when you switched off your mind and allowed spirit to come through. So yes, think about the circumstances around it, what happened and why, and you'll find your explanation. Think about your destination. What were you worried about that day? Was it something about the kids, something about the destination, the trip, the journey? Had you wished you hadn't left? Worried about something going off at home? All these things can explain why spirit come through, be it a guide or a loved one, to let you know, I wouldn't worry about it. There you go. Hope that helps, Melody. Melody. I'll get the name right in a moment. And right after the break, we're going to be talking about a new show on A&E over in the United States. And I've watched the first episode, and this is with actor Rob Lowe and his two sons, talking all about the paranormal and the spirit realms, Sasquatch and all the myths and legends. And their first show was all about Preston Castle, a boys' reformatory with a very spooky past. We'll talk about that and more from Ghosts, the Paranormal, Myths and Legends, and of course Tell Me a Ghost Story right after this break.
We will be right back with more from Myths and Legends. Don't go anywhere. Don't miss out on the next scary tale coming up after a short break. Join us on SOC Radio. Host your own online radio show. We welcome inquiries and ideas for your own show live right here on SOC Radio. Share your knowledge, thoughts and abilities. Bring your ideas to life here with us on SOC Radio and spiritualistonline.com. Or join any of our shows as a special guest, speaker or presenter. Check out the liveliest spiritual chat show, the Spiritualist Open Circle Panel Forum, a monthly discussion show, or the Circle of Mediums, a weekly show sharing spirit messages and teaching all aspects of mediumship and psychic abilities. Or join our Christina on the monthly astrology show. Contact us now at socradioshows@gmail.com or facebook.com/socradio. Spiritualist Open Circle Forum Panel Show, the liveliest spiritual chat show online. The Spiritualist Open Circle Panel Forum Chat Show with hosts, guest speakers and panellists discussing and challenging all areas of spiritual thought, ability, knowledge and more. Ever wanted to voice your thoughts and help set standards within the field? Confront those who bring the work down, or simply share your ideas and help bring spirit's work into the light of day and give spiritualism the recognition of all as a true faith and way of life? Then this is the show for you. Every last Friday of the month, 10 p.m. UK time. Join the team. Astrology Chat with Chrissy Lincoln, Psychological Body and Spirit. Monthly chat show, last Tuesday of the month, 1 to 3 p.m. New Zealand time. Jenny Lee brings you spiritual insights, covering various topics from remote viewing to her upcoming book launch. Check it all out on our schedule live in the SOC Radio chat room on spiritualistonline.com, or simply listen in at tunein.com and search for SOC Radio. Spirit Weavers with Jodie White Wolf Morrison, a weekly 1-hour radio show, Thursdays 8 p.m. UK time, featuring those who are dedicated to living their spirituality and exploring how that is woven into their everyday lives through their work, practices and beliefs. Various SOC members from Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum sharing their abilities, knowledge and more. Dates and times will vary. Live in the SOC Radio chat room on spiritualistonline.com, or simply listen in at tunein.com and search for SOC Radio. spiritualistonline.com, online since 2002. Teaching all aspects of personal and spiritual development. Free to all with audio video chat rooms, members forums and SOC Radio live shows on site. The Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum, a global oasis for spiritual awareness, development, attainment, imparting knowledge, thoughts, ideas to inspire. One site, linking a whole network of spiritually informative, educational and interactive services, encompassing every faith, path, walk, religion as one. Advertise with SOC Radio. 10, 15, 20 or 30 second jingles, adverts or promotions, all going out live on SOC Radio. Promote your services, churches, groups or events at the best rates online. Work with us on shows or promotion and you could get your jingles absolutely free. For this and more, contact Julie at socradioshows@gmail.com. Premium membership on spiritualistonline.com. Join our teaching lyceum, classes and courses to certificate and diploma levels. It's an option, not an obligation. Still only £30 per year for unlimited seminars, guest sessions, members' moments, voice members included on radio chats and TV shows, full certificate courses and qualifications, members' promotions of sites, books and services, discounts on SOC services, one-on-one teaching, private classes, members-only Facebook. Upgrade your membership today. Joint family group options. See spiritualistonline.com. Welcome back. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we will continue with more scary stories, experiences and messages from realms yet to be explained.
Go. And welcome back to Myths and Legends with JulieSoc here on SOC Radio. Been sharing a few stories from our favourite two Facebook pages, Ghosts, the Paranormal, Myths and Legends, and of course Tell Me a Ghost Story. Now I've been very interested recently in a new show that's coming out in the US. It actually aired the first week in August, and it's with Rob Lowe and Sons. Most of you will know Rob Lowe from various different films, and from one of my favourite films way back. Well, I'll probably not insult him and say way back, but one of my favourite films, St. Elmo's Fire. Born in Virginia, actor Rob Lowe has always been interested, he says, in the paranormal and in such stories and myths as Sasquatch, Bigfoot, etc. And he's grown up telling his two boys, stories of the paranormal. And they decided that they would like to investigate such things. So they've brought out this brand new show on A&E network in the US, and it's called The Lowe Files. And I've just sat and watched the first episode, and it's all about the Preston Castle Boys Reformatory in Lone, California. And this whole place was way back in the 1800s, obviously a boys reformatory, and there's stories of boys who were killed who were trying to escape, a housekeeper who was murdered on the premises, and of course other nasty stories of what went off in a typical 1800s boys reformatory. And an interesting part is, on the way to it, during the first episode, they show you a hotel that they were staying at, the story of a young girl who drowned in a well many, many moons ago, and that the well was then covered over and the hotel was built around it. And they thought, just for a bit of a fun, they would get up and during the night when everybody was asleep in the hotel and go and find this well. And indeed they did. Now they scoot over it a little bit. They don't tell you if there's anything going off. They go on to the programme about Preston Castle. Now, as I say, I've only just watched the first episode, but I am intrigued. They do have recorded EMP. They do have activity on the usual paraphernalia of tools that ghost hunters use, light up boxes, voice boxes, etc. But the most interesting part for me was when they were in the boys' dormitory room, and they sit and watch a basketball, which was rather flat, roll across the floor. Now you can say, was there a breeze? Was there a wind in the room? These guys are sitting in that room, and that ball moved across the floor. Now the two sons, even though grown up with all the stories that Rob has told them, they're both rather cynical. One's scientifically minded, the other one's, I don't believe this doesn't happen, until he sees that ball move across the floor. They hear weird noises throughout the premises during the episode, and they have a voice box that not only starts to speak up when they are walking towards the area where the housekeeper was murdered, but the voice box starts to say lady, beat, gives various different words. It also tells them to go outside, and they say a prayer outside to ask that all the spirits in the premises are allowed to cross over and allowed to heal and move on. Very interesting episode, I've got to say. I would like to investigate that reformatory myself if I ever get back over to the States again. So that's the Lowe Files with Rob Lowe and his sons investigating various episodes, various places, and hauntings and myths and legends. It will be very interesting to watch the rest of the series. You can find it on YouTube. Search A&E on YouTube, or of course the Low Files with Rob Lowe. Very interesting series. I'm looking forward to the rest of it. It's got my interest going, and what I love about it is there is no camera effects. Absolutely, they state categorically, this is not keyed up for television. You haven't got the spooky music that most shows put behind it, and they're not telling you what they're seeing. They're letting you see the evidence, hear the evidence for yourselves. It's done a little bit different to most other haunting shows, etc. But I'm really interested to see how that goes and where it takes the investigations in the future. Very interesting program. Would love to see how it develops. So check it out. The Lowe Files with Rob Lowe and his two sons on A&E Network in the UK, and you can of course see it on YouTube. Very interesting. Okay, let's get back to our favourite our favourite Facebook groups: Ghosts, the Paranormal, Myths and Legends, and of course Tell Me a Ghost Story. And again, I want to share a story here. These two stories are very similar, but span the globe in their source. Some's in the US, some's in the UK. And it goes to, let's say, our fascination with the graveyard and what happens when we are buried and laid to rest. Kirsty Jo Stanton shares two different stories, and I hope I've got them the right way here. Parts of Tennessee, you'll find a typical grave that's distinctive to a region across the western base of the Cumberland Plateau, mostly from the late 19th and early 20th century, known as tent graves. You heard me correctly, tent graves, or coon graves. They're marked by the signature slabs of a stone arranged over the grave in a tent-like shape, with some variations. You can find a few in the Cash Family Cemetery in Coffee County, Tennessee. Different graves have the slabs either supported by a triangular piece at either end or by an iron bar. They can also be made of different kinds of stone. Sandstone and limestone are the most common, but marble, metal and concrete can also be found. Some have the inscriptions right on the tent, while most have a separate headstone. As you explore the slightly overgrown and now out of use graveyard, you can see the different kinds of graves, including a few tent gravestones. The theory behind why tent gravestones became popular in the region has to do with the fact old graves settle. As old wooden coffins deteriorated, the earth on top of the grave sunk. A stone tent was over the sunken grave would have kept out the animals who grazed cemeteries to keep them from getting overgrown, from falling into a sunken grave and preventing plants from growing on the soil. Plus, they look pretty cool. There's photographs on, of course, the website on Facebook, and that's at Ghosts, the Paranormal, Supernatural, Myths and Legends on Facebook. And she also talks about another story. Traversing southern Kentucky byways, an unsuspecting motorist may happen upon a county cemetery with gabled sheds over the grave sites and its tombstone. Other states have a few remaining grave houses too, but many of Kentucky's have been especially well maintained. This Kentucky phenomenon may have its origins either in England or in American Indian tradition. What motivates the grieving to build the structure is understandably the concept of posthumous exhibition of affection. Mourning by another name, perhaps, with a touch of veneration thrown in. Another explanation may come from the fear of a mythical creature that was something of a cross between a weasel and an anteater that would burrow into graves. More likely is a simple desire to protect the site from erosion and grazing livestock that may happen by. Far fewer of the sheds are built these days than had been the case in the early 20th century, and with the ground rules imposed by many municipal cemeteries. But knowledge of this tradition hasn't entirely passed, thanks to the undying curiosity and enthusiasm of folklorists. And once again, there's some amazing photographs of these sheds, houses, what could be the early, another version of the crypt, where some families believe that, it's not a belief, or some families have their loved ones buried in a crypt that they can go and continuously visit, or that they can have more than one family member buried within the crypt. But these houses, or these sheds, as you like, or structures built over graves, show a little bit different way of remembering our loved ones. Were they just to keep out the evil, or were they to keep in evil? Or were they simply methods of mourning and a way to keep your loved one a little bit different in the graveyard? Very, very interesting photographs. And yes, some of these buildings and structures can still be seen across England, Europe, and of course in Kentucky, and I'm sure elsewhere. But an interesting thought that two different areas have a different take on how to protect, or how to remember, how to make a gravestone slightly different from others in the graveyard. You can check out those photographs, of course, on the Facebook page. Ghosts, Paranormal, Supernatural, Myths and Legends on Facebook. Okay, and let's carry on. We'll get in one more story before the top of the hour. Changing the topic a little bit. It's about a town that was wiped out for the benefit of all. This is a story of the ghost town of Tyneham, a small fishing community on the Dorset coast, until 1943, when it was taken over and requisitioned by the government in preparation for the D-Day landings. Now, we all know about wartime stories, and we don't think about what it took to get a whole war or mission underway. Now, you think about it, they're planning the D-Day landings. Where do they take off from? Where do they station thousands of troops before a big mission like this? Well, back in Tyneham on the Dorset coast in 1943, they took over a whole village. It's come to be known the village that died for England. On 7,500 acres of surrounding heathland and chalkland around the Purbeck Hills, it was all commandeered just before Christmas 1943 by the then War Office, now known as the MOD, for use as firing ranges for troops, for training. 225 people were displaced, and the last person departing left notice on the church door. Please treat the church and houses with care. We've given up our homes, where many of us lived for generations, to help win the war and keep men free. We shall return one day, and thank you for treating the village kindly. Now, this measure was supposed to be temporary for the duration of World War II, but unlike many other requisitioned villages, Tyneham's residents were never allowed to return after the war in 1948. The army placed a compulsory purchase order on the land, which has remained in use for military training ever since. The area now being part of the Ministry of Defence Ludworth Range. Though littered with scrap used as targets and subject to regular shelling, the land has become a haven for wildlife, and it has been free from farming and development. In 1975, after complaints from tourists and locals, the Ministry of Defence began opening the village and footpaths across the ranges At weekends and throughout August, many of the village buildings have fallen into disrepair or have been damaged by shelling. In 1967, the then Ministry of Works pulled down the Elizabethan Manor House, though the church remains intact and has a stained glass window by Martin Travers. The church, the old schoolhouse, has since been preserved as museums. In 2008, Tyneham Farm was reopened to the public, and conservation work is there ongoing to this day. As long as you don't visit during military training exercises, seriously stick to the footpaths, you can take a look at the village, which now consists of the remains of the residents' cottages, a 1929 K1 telephone kiosk, the church and the old school, where the displays are still intact. But as the website will inform you, the village was last inhabited in 1943, so take your own food and drinks because there's no cafe or shop. Interesting story and an interesting place, I must say, to be able to visit. You think about all those places that have been given up to nature to form reservoirs, form lakes. I remember one story on the news recently of a lake that had receded so much it showed a whole town that was once there and once inhabited, but had been given up in favour of building the reservoir. Can you imagine the things that must go off in those areas? And this ghost town back in England, where the residents gave up their homes for the love of country so that soldiers could be trained ready for the war and for the D-Day landings. Can you imagine the spookiness that must be going off? It may be good for those who lived there at the time to move on, but for all those who were buried there and who had lived there in the past, what they must think and how they must cope with constant shelling and military exercises going over their village. But it is nice to know that the MOD have now started to maintain and look after the village as they requested on that notice on their church door. Please treat the church and houses with care. We've given up our homes where many of us lived for generations to help win the war to keep men free. We shall return one day, and thank you for treating the village kindly. Are they returning now as visitors to their own village and taking note that the church and the cottages are now museums to the fact that they were there and gave up their village? Interesting story, and I would love to visit the area, and I hope one day on my visits back to the UK to check out those kind of places. These things we don't think about, do we? Like the graveyard down at the end of the street or in town, what's been built there and what people do to look after their graves, their family's gravestone, to protect them. We've heard the stories of the cages built around graves to ensure that animals can't get into them, and the fears, the human fears that we take with us into our graves. I've got one, I mentioned it, I'm sure, on my show the other week, that when you bury me, if you bury, I want to be cremated and scattered across the globe because that's where I've lived. I don't believe in the physical shell being left behind as a place to go and worship or to go and visit. I'm not there anymore. But if I was to be buried, I want to be laid on my side in the fetal position because I've got a back injury that means I can't lie flat in my life. It locks my back up. So yes, even when you say goodbye to me, let me lie in peace on my side. But there you go. Some interesting stories and thoughts of what happens to our lovely body shell when we're buried or when we give up a place that we love. Okie dokie, carrying on. Yes, we get one more quick story in and one for you to think about. But do yourself a favour, do it in the light and don't freak yourself out too much about it. But we've all heard these stories about reincarnation and birthmarks in this life affecting or showing, reflecting injuries or methods of our passing, the reason we passed from another life, the birthmarks that are left behind, the scars that we have in this life that have no explanation, then it can only be how you passed from another life. But this one was to lead to the story of a young boy who found his own murderer in a past life. The birthmark is a creepy and remarkable story about a 3-year-old boy who solved his own murder. The story was supposedly witnessed by an Israeli doctor named Professor Eli Lask, not sure how we present that one. But the boy's story was recounted in a book about reincarnation called Children Who Have Lived Before. This was a 3-year-old boy who lived in a village in the Golan Heights in Israel, near the border with Syria. The boy was born with a red birthmark on his forehead. As soon as he was old enough to talk, he told his family that he had lived before. He pointed to the birthmark and said that he had been murdered with an axe. The boy's parents took him to the village where he claimed he had lived. There they met with village elders. The boy said he remembered his old name. It was the name of a man who had gone missing from the village 4 years before. He also showed them the house where he had lived. The boy said he remembered the name of the man who killed him. When the boy saw the man, he walked right up to him and said, "I used to be your neighbour. We had a fight and you killed me with an axe." The man's face turned as white as a sheet. Then the boy told the village elders, "I even know where he buried my body." They followed the boy to a nearby field, and he stopped in front of a pile of stones. When they removed the stones, they found a skeleton underneath. Where was the wound and the skull? Exactly the same place where the boy's red birthmark was. The boy showed them where the axe was also buried. And at that point, man broke down and confessed to the murder. Now then, work that one out. How could a 3-year-old boy remember a past life of a man who died 4 years, the year before he was born? This is in Syria. This is in the Middle East. It's in Israel. I'll rephrase that. It's in Israel, near the border of Syria. Could a 3-year-old boy be given all the information of this man's murder, of where he lived, of who his neighbour was, of how he died, and not only that, but where the body was buried and the murder weapon was to be found? Other stories like this have been shared across the internet and across in books and TV shows. It reminds me of a young boy in Scotland who, throughout his life, remembered where he was in another life and his story of a past life. And again, it was investigated in a TV show, and they found the house, they found the place, they found the family, they found descendants, and they found confirmations of the boy's story from generations ahead when he was born again with the memories of a past life. Have you had memories of a past life? Do you have scars on your body? Do you have a birthmark that's unexplained? Interesting thoughts, isn't it? And we will continue this after the following break with messages from our other shows here on SOC Radio, where of course you can listen in at the chat rooms on spiritualistonline.com. Join in and ask your questions to any of our shows. Join in any of our shows and ask the hosts their questions. You can post questions, of course, on our SOC Radio Facebook page at any time, and we will try and answer them as soon as we possibly can. And if you're interested in guesting on our shows, whether it's this one, and share your horror stories, share your ghostly, spooky experiences, and ask your questions about your spirit loved ones, you can do. Check us out on facebook.com/SOC Radio, and of course our home pages at Spiritualist Online, of course on Facebook as well. You can find me, JulieSoc, on Facebook and on my own webpage, mediumjulie.com, and throughout Spiritualist Online Network. Coming up in the next half hour, we're also going to tell you about a brand new show coming to SOC Radio, which is with Phil Saracusa, telling you the whole story, the entire history, and the ongoing living of the Horsefly Chronicles. We'll see you after this break.
We will be right back with more from Myths and Legends. Don't go anywhere. Don't miss out on the next scary tale coming up after a short break. SpiritualistOnline.com. Online since 2002, teaching all aspects of personal and spiritual development. Free to all with audio video chat rooms, members forums, and SOC Radio live shows on site. The Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum, a global oasis for spiritual awareness, development, attainment, imparting knowledge, thoughts, ideas to inspire. One site, linking a whole network of spiritually informative, educational and interactive services, encompassing every faith, path, walk, religion as one. Premium membership on spiritualistonline.com. Join our teaching Lyceum, classes and courses to certificate and diploma levels. It's an option, not an obligation. Still only £30 per year for unlimited seminars, guest sessions, members' moments, voice members included on radio chats and TV shows, full certificate courses and qualifications, members' promotions of sites, books and services, discounts on SOC services, one-on-one teaching, private classes, members-only Facebook. Upgrade your membership today. Joint family group options. See spiritualistonline.com. Advertise with SOC Radio. 10, 15, 20 or 30-second jingles, adverts or promotions. All going out live on SOC Radio. Promote your services, churches, groups or events at the best rates online. Work with us on shows or promotion and you could get your jingles absolutely free. For this and more, contact Julie at socradioshows@gmail.com. The Circle of Mediums radio show. 6 mediums, healers, psychics, tarot, astrologers, spiritual workers every week, sharing spirit messages, development techniques, guidance and much more. Live in the SOC Radio chat room on spiritualistonline.com. or simply listen in at tunein.com. Search SOC Radio. Would you like to contribute readings, thoughts, teachings and time to this 2-hour show? Get in touch at socradioshows@gmail.com. SOC Radio aims to provide a wide range of hosts, shows, views and opinions while endeavouring to maintain our 3 vital principles of openness, honesty and integrity, covering all aspects of spiritualism, mediumship, healing, personal and spiritual development for all faiths, religions and walks of life as a way of life. As part of our spiritualistonline.com, Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum, SOC Radio brings you the latest and honest news, views and names in the spiritual field. Check us out and tune in to SOC Radio on spiritualistonline.com. Join in the SOC Radio chat room on the website. Join us on SOC Radio. Host your own online radio show. We welcome inquiries and ideas for your own show live right here on SOC Radio. Share your knowledge, thoughts and abilities. Bring your ideas to life here with us on SOC Radio at spiritualistonline.com. Or join any of our shows as a special guest, speaker or presenter. Check out the liveliest spiritual chat show, the Spiritualist Open Circle Panel Forum, a monthly discussion show or The Circle of Mediums, a weekly show sharing spirit messages and teaching all aspects of mediumship and psychic abilities, or join our Christina on the monthly astrology show, contact us now at socradioshows@gmail.com or facebook.com/socradio. Advertise with Soc Radio. 10, 15, 20 or 30-second jingles, adverts or promotions, all going out live on Soc Radio. Promote your services, churches, groups or events at the best rates online. Work with us on shows or promotion and you could get your jingles absolutely free. For this and more, contact Julie at socradioshows@gmail.com. Welcome back. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we will continue with more scary stories, experiences and messages from realms yet to be explained.
And welcome back to Myths and Legends with myself, JulieSoc, and some rather ghostly tales and spooky experiences shared from our lovely Facebook groups Tell Me a Ghost Story and, of course, the GPSML site, Ghosts, the Paranormal, Supernatural, Myths and Legends, and stories from across the internet and personal experiences from members on them. Now then, we've got a few new things coming up on Soc Radio. We're looking we are looking forward to the end of the month on August the 26th, 27th, depending where you are in the northern or southern hemisphere, and a brand new show telling us the story of the Horsefly Chronicles with host Phil Saracusa. Now, we have an exclusive here. He is going to be telling us the entire history and story behind the property he lives in and the spooky experiences that's been going off ever since. There are videos, EMPs and all sorts that he has listed on the internet and his website, etc., of the things that go off in the most haunted house that you'll ever see. Phil Saracusa and his wife live in this house constantly, surrounded by many different spirit activity. And he says demonic activity. So check it out. That's Phil Saracusa coming to Soc Radio on August 26th, 27th. I think it's at 4 a.m. UK time, 11 p.m. on a Sunday night in the US Eastern Coast, New York time. So you can hear the whole story in a weekly series telling us all about the Horsefly Chronicles, which has made it across the paranormal world, and it's the one we've all been waiting for. It's going to be telling you all sorts of happenings and giving you the evidence to show not only spirit activity happens, but there are also other things in the spirit realms. Talking of the which, we're going to be talking about the tools that we use, or some people use, in paranormal investigations, etc. We've heard about the voice boxes that are set to, if you like, pick up the vibrations and the sounds and voices that come across when doing an investigation. As we heard in the first story today about the Rob Lowe show, the Lowe files, they picked up sounds in an area where a woman had been murdered that told us of a beating that told us to go outside. Voice boxes, I'm skeptical about because they have to be programmed, or people, I don't exactly know how they work, but they're supposed to bring up words and from spirit energies. Some of them have a lot of static noise on them and you can barely hear whispers. Others I have heard clear as bell, words, sentences, even names coming through. You've seen it on Most Haunted, you've seen it on various different paranormal investigation shows. Along with these other tools such as light boxes, which light up when spirit activity is around them. Again, it's used on the Rob Lowe show to show where, again, this lady had been murdered, and they asked it specifically, if it is this lady, show us the green light. It didn't. It showed the red light. Was it somebody else in the property? These light boxes can pick up vibrations in the room or in the area, and they do everything from their strobe lights or their coloured lights or their rows of lights, or it's a meter that has different lights that light up. One of the oldest tools that we use, and that has now got a really, really bad reputation, is of course the Ouija board. Now then, give a mechanic a spanner and he knows how to use it. Give a surgeon a scalpel, and they'll tell you if it's the right gauge to use for an operation. Give a medium a Ouija board and we'll use it. Ouija boards have been in existence for generations, a method by which we use and get spirit to communicate. Now then, of course, there's always the argument that the user is pushing the keyway to the answers, or to the letters to spell out a name. And these have been used in seances and spirit investigations for years. And there will always be the argument that they bring through demonic things, or they open the portal to spirit realm, and if you don't know how to use them correctly, that they can leave behind them some really bad entities. Now then, for me, first of all, bad entities, no. Bad people, yes. Whether we take that into the spirit realms with us into the next life is another thing, but think about it. Spirit only want to communicate, and if you ignore them, you'll still get a row like you would ignore anybody in life. But the Ouija board can be used as a specific tool. What I don't agree with is these ones that's being brought out and dressed up as a child's toy. Various toy stores have brought them out, toy manufacturers have brought them out as a child's toy. This is definitely a no-no. Okay, we've all seen the kids' toy operation, whereby you're asked to pick out the bones and organs of a person laid out on this board, and if you touch the sides, you get a did that wrong. And the object of the thing is to get the organ out, perform the operation, etc. That is no more a way to teach a child to be a surgeon than a Ouija board is to teach a child to be a medium or a psychic. Ouija boards are not toys. They are tools. Give a child a spanner. I saw one the other week, a video made of a daughter supposedly changing the oil of a truck. Father's truck. Father's obviously doing all the work. Daughter's getting there under the truck with a spanner and little bits of oil on her face and all. A lovely video supposedly showing this young child changing the oil of the truck. Now we all know she didn't actually do it. She was positioned, she was shown, and the video was a little instructional information, if you like, but the child didn't actually do the work. You don't give a child a hammer and ask them to bray in a nail without supervision and without training. Come on, give a child a Ouija board, and what are you looking for? All these people who have tried Ouija boards as a method to communicate, ever since, haunted shows have come out, I've forgot the name of it. Tracy may be able to help me here, producer. The one with the kids running through the forest. It's gone straight out my head. I had it in my head there for a minute. But you give a child a tool, you've got to train them how to use it. But you don't give a child or a teenager a Ouija board without training them how to use it. We explain it, we teach it. We teach children how to do things. If you're messing with things that you don't know about, you're going to cut yourself. If you're trying to light a fire without practice, you're going to burn yourself. If you're using a Ouija board or even a pendulum or the divining rods and you don't know how to use it, yes, you can open yourself up to energies that you're not familiar with. And what do we love to be? Scared. So we like to try these things. But if it's used correctly and you're ready for what you're about to bring through, whether it's your grandmother communicating, or whether it's the old man that you know nothing about, or whether it's somebody coming through that's trying to communicate and not getting the message over and they get angry, no, don't do it. Simple as that. And you've also got to close off the session. Like we do as psychics and mediums, we close off the session. We thank our spirit guides for coming through. We thank those who've come through to let us give messages off. We don't just leave a door wide open. Think about it. You lock your house at night. You don't leave your doors wide open for any Tom, Dick or Harry to come in, raid your fridge, cook their meals or sleep on your couch. Unless you're in a very trusting neighbourhood, I must say. We used to do it when we were kids. We lived in a village where everybody knew anybody that lived there, and you could leave your doors wide open. These days, we don't do it. You don't do it with spirit communication either. You've got to say thank you and wish them well on their journey. Those who use Ouija boards without training are going to open themselves up to all sorts. And our fears manifest worse than anything that can come through from the spirit realms. If we think about going to a party and you're there with your friends and you meet some others and you have a lovely night and you have a great party, and then as you're on your way home, one of the other people who came to the party tags along and you can't shake them off. No matter how many hints you give them, or saying, oh, I've got to go now, tra, and they still follow, they keep going with you. How do you deal with it? Do you turn around flat blank and say, hey, look, thanks, nice to meet you, lovely party, etc., but can we just go off on our own now? Or do you let them keep following you until you get to your doorway and they still come in without invite, etc.? And do you let them? No, of course you don't. You ask them to leave. That's exactly what happens with spirit. You must be ready to say thank you very much. Our time is over, and leave it with the door closed. Ouija boards are a lovely tool. You can get lots of messages through from them. You can connect with spirit that you wouldn't otherwise do so. We all have our guides. I like to think we have a spiritual guide, a life guide, a sanity guide. Those who teach us different areas of our abilities, they come and go. Some stay with us throughout our life, like our spiritual guide. Some will pop in when we're needed. Like when I was working with missing persons cases, I had a specific guide who helped me with that. With my development, I have a specific guide who helps me with developing and working with my spirit work. So use the tools correctly. Whether it's a voice box, whether it's a light box, or whether it's a Ouija board, or a pendulum, or the divining rods. Some people use divining rods to find water, other for ley lines, other for spirit activity, finding the spot in the house that is most active. These are tools, they're not toys. So we've seen it across the internet, across Facebooks, all the horror stories of using various tools and then taking spirit home with you. 9 times out of 10, it's fear. Something came through, you didn't understand it, you didn't get the message through correctly, and you go home and you give yourself the fright of the night, thinking they're still with you. If they're with you 9 times out of 10, and I always say this, it's family or loved ones that have said, hey, hiya, you have ignored them. You haven't recognised them or acknowledged them, so they're still trying. And they're still giving you that tap on the shoulder or the brush of the hair to say, I'm still here. You asked me to come through. Now acknowledge me. Again, it's inviting your friends through, locking the door, not letting them in, and they wonder why. As in life, so in spirit. So take note, if you're playing with toys, keep them as toys. If you're working with spirit, work with spirit. Learn the trade. If you're going to develop in any trade job in this life, then do it correctly. It's not a game to be played with. As we've heard from some of the spooky stories from our favourite websites and Facebook pages. And let's go back to our original topic for today. Coincidences and accidents. It can be a coincidence that you use one of these tools and take spirit home with you. Or, as these two following stories attest, across generations, across eons and decades, and even centuries. Are these coincidences? Are they predictions? Did somebody know something before it actually happened? Shared by Christina Skelton on one of our favourite pages. The Richard Parker coincidence. Now remember the dates and listen carefully. In 1837, Edgar Allan Poe wrote a novel called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. It tells the fictional story of 4 sailors who were adrift in a boat, starving. They each draw straws once decided that one of them should be killed to be eaten by the others so some may survive. The one who draws the short straw was a cabin boy named Richard Parker, and he was hence eaten so the others may survive. Now then, we scoot forward a few decades when an actual event in 1884 on a yacht named the Mignotte sank. It's said that 4 sailors managed to escape in a lifeboat, but they didn't have enough food and water to survive. Eventually, 3 of the sailors decided to kill and eat the 4th person, a 17-year-old cabin boy. They dined on his remains until they were rescued 35 days later. The name of that cabin boy they ate was Richard Parker. Now, did Edgar Allan Poe have a premonition of that yacht that was to sink 30-odd years later? Think about it. From 1837, Edgar Allan Poe's fictional story came true in 1884. Not only with the same amount of people in the boat, but the same cabin boy, and his name was Richard Parker. Coincidence or claircognizance, prior knowledge, by the one and only Edgar Allan Poe. And again, one more story. Another coincidence, or is it something else? The Erdington murders. On May 27th, 1817, 20-year-old Mary Ashford was murdered, and her body was found lying in a sandpit in Erdington, England. Police soon arrest a suspect named Mr. Thornton and charge him with murder. But after 2 trials, he was found not guilty due to lack of evidence and was released. We scoot forward 157 years later. On May 27th, again, 1975, 20-year-old Barbara Forrest was murdered, and her body was found lying in a ditch in the exact same area of Erdington, England. Police arrest a suspect who was also named Mr. Thornton. They charged him with the murder, but he was again later acquitted and released. Spooky was the story back in May 1817. That's May 27th, the exact same day, 1817. And 157 years later, on May 27th, 1975, 2 murders, very similar, 2 suspects with the same name, both released through lack of evidence. But hold on, wait, there's more. In the days before Mary Ashford was murdered, back in 1817, she told a friend that she had bad feelings about the week to come. Did she have a premonition about her own passing? And 10 days before Barbara Forrest was murdered, on May 27th, 1975, she told a friend, "This is going to be my unlucky month. I just know it. Don't ask me why." Coincidence? What do you think? Does time repeat itself? Can lightning strike twice, not only in the same town, same place, the same method, same name of the suspect? Can it really strike twice? Interesting stories coming out of our favourite 2 Facebook pages, Ghosts, the Paranormal, Supernatural, Myths and Legends, and Tell Me a Ghost Story, the one with all the capital letters. Check them out on Facebook and share your stories for us to share on SOC Radio's Myths and Legends. More of these stories to come after this break coming up. Now, just a reminder, also check out Rob Lowe, actor, and his brand new series coming out on A&E Network in the US. The first of the series was aired in the first week of August and is found on Facebook. The Lowe Files. Yeah, strikes a little bit of the X-Files, but even in their first episode, they've not only captured EVP, which is electronic voice phenomenon, they've found in an area of the Preston Manor, the boys' reformatory home of the 1800s. They have shown spirit activity. They have on video a ball moving across the floor of the boys' dormitory. This and more from Myths and Legends after the upcoming break. Thank you, Tracy, our producer.
We will be right back with more from Myths and Legends. Don't go anywhere. Don't miss out on the next scary tale coming up after a short break. Spiritualistonline.com. Online since 2002, teaching all aspects of personal and spiritual development. Free to all with audio video chat rooms, members forums, and SOC Radio live shows on site. The Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum, a global oasis for spiritual awareness, development, attainment, imparting knowledge, thoughts, ideas to inspire. One site, linking a whole network of spiritually informative, educational and interactive services, encompassing every faith, path, walk, religion as one. Join us on SOC Radio. Host your own online radio show. We welcome inquiries and ideas for your own show live right here on SOC Radio. Share your knowledge, thoughts and abilities. Bring your ideas to life here with us on SOC Radio and spiritualistonline.com. Or join any of our shows as a special guest, speaker or presenter. Check out the liveliest spiritual chat show, the Spiritualist Open Circle Panel Forum, a monthly discussion show, or the Circle of Mediums, a weekly show sharing spirit messages and teaching all aspects of mediumship and psychic abilities. Or join our Christina on the monthly astrology show, Contact us now at socradioshows@gmail.com or facebook.com/socradio. Spiritualist Open Circle Forum Panel Show, the liveliest spiritual chat show online. The Spiritualist Open Circle Panel Forum Chat Show with hosts, guest speakers and panellists discussing and challenging all areas of spiritual thought, ability, knowledge and more. Ever wanted to voice your thoughts and help set standards within the field? Confront those who bring the work down, or simply share your ideas and help bring spirit's work into the light of day and give spiritualism the recognition of all as a true faith and way of life? Then this is the show for you. Every last Friday of the month, 10 p.m. UK time. Join the team. Astrology Chat with Chrissy Lincoln, Psychological Body and Spirit. Monthly chat show, last Tuesday of the month, 1 to 3 p.m. New Zealand. Spirit Weavers with Jodie White Wolf Morrison. A weekly 1-hour radio show, Thursdays 8 p.m. UK time, featuring those who are dedicated to living their spirituality and exploring how that is woven into their everyday lives through their work, practices and beliefs. Various SOC members from Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum sharing their abilities, knowledge and more. Dates and times will vary. Live in the SOC radio chat room on spiritualistonline.com or simply listen in at tunein.com and search for SOC Radio. SOC Radio aims to provide a wide range of hosts, shows, views and opinions while endeavouring to maintain our 3 vital principles of openness, honesty and integrity, covering all aspects of spiritualism, mediumship, healing, personal and spiritual development for all faiths, religions and walks of life as a way of life. As part of our spiritualistonline.com, Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum, SOC Radio brings you the latest and honest news, views and names in the spiritual field. Check us out and tune in to SOC Radio on spiritualistonline.com. Join in the SOC Radio chat room on the website. The Circle of Mediums radio show. 6 mediums, healers, psychics, tarot, astrologers, spiritual workers every week, sharing spirit premium membership on spiritualistonline.com. Join our teaching lyceum, classes and courses to certificate and diploma levels. It's an option, not an obligation. Still only £30 per year for unlimited seminars, guest sessions, members' moments, voice members included on radio chats and TV shows, full certificate courses and qualifications, members' promotions of sites, books and services, discounts on SOC services, one-on-one teaching, private classes, members-only Facebook. Upgrade your membership today. Joint family group options. See spiritualistonline.com. Advertise with SOC Radio. 10, 15, 20 or 30 second jingles, adverts or promotions, all going out live on SOC Radio. Promote your services, churches, groups or events at the best rates online. Work with us on shows or promotion and you could get your jingles absolutely free. For this and more, contact Julie at socradioshows@gmail.com. Welcome back. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we will continue with more scary stories, experiences and messages from realms yet to be explained.
And welcome back to Myths and Legends with myself, JulieSoc. And we're sharing today various different stories from, of course, our usual pages on Facebook. Tell Me a Ghost Story, the one with all the capital letters, and the ghosts, the paranormal, supernatural myths and legends. We, of course, troll the internet for other things and other stories, as well as personal experiences and ghosty stories. Now, we've also mentioned today the new Rob Lowe series coming out of A&E in the US, The Lowe Files, with him, Rob Lowe himself, and his 2 sons investigating various different locations and paranormal stories. Interesting show. You must give it a watch. Don't let the, shall we say, hype put you off. I've got to say, this is one of the programs I have watched that does not hype it up in any way, shape or form. It was very interesting watching the first episode, and I look forward to the rest of the series. Also, coming up on SOC Radio, August 26th, 27th, depending on if you're in the northern or southern hemisphere, we have, of course, Phil Saracusa joining us with the entire story of the Horsefly Chronicles, the property in which he lives, which has the amazing amount of spirit activity, demonic activity, stories that will chill you to the bone, evidence that they have collected, EVPs, video, photographs, everything that will be shared with you in his brand new hour-long show, Sunday nights, I believe at 11 p.m. New York time, 4 a.m. Mondays UK time. It's on the schedule. Check it all out at spiritualistonline.com and check out the radio schedule page, which will give you that and all other shows going out on SOC Radio. Okay, gonna get back to it now, and a few things and little gripes and let's say what's the word, little niggles that really get me when you're surfing the internet or you're being shown photographs and supposed images of spirit activity. Now, the phone has been a great invention. The mobile phone has been added to with cameras and microphones, and you can record just about anything, any shape, any place, anywhere. But there's also the hacks of the little images that pop up on screen and into your photographs to make you think you've got spirit over your shoulder. Now, you've got to take these with a pinch of salt. A lot of them, yes, are genuine. Seen a beautiful one of an old class photograph taken back in the 1950s, and in not one but two different angles, the photograph is being taken by two different people, and when they've compared it, on one photograph there is an extra person in the back row, on the other it's just a clear space. But modern day mobile phones, there are apps, whether you download them or not, I don't know, whether you these are inadvertently added to photographs, or whether they're just the ones doing the, shall we say, taking the mick and adding them to photographs. But I've been shown many a photograph taken on a phone where there's supposedly a spirit over the shoulder or sitting in the garden or whatever, and if you investigate it and you look closely, you can see not only is the pixel rate on the photograph totally different in the area where the spirit is supposed to be, the change in the image is totally different. And some of them are so bad there's even a square mark around them, so you can see it's been edited in, or it's a phone app that's been added to the photograph. One I did see recently was of a TV star who was taking a break in her back garden and having a pool party with some friends. And she was just doing a bit of a yahoo, a bit of a hello to everybody on Facebook. And as she zoomed and panned round, saying hello to everybody in the pool and her friends that were there with her, and zoomed back and panned back to her face, there, over in the hedges, behind the little picket fence, was a face. Now, of course, this sparked lots and lots of replies. It's a fake, it's this, it's that, it's the other. But if you take a quick look and investigate it, she pans across that scene 2 or 3 times. It's empty, there's nothing there over the fence. But on the last 2 times she does it, the face is there, and not only is it there, it moves. So it's not a still image. It's not something that's been added to the video. The face, the image behind the fence moves. Could be worth investigating more. Was it a neighbour peeking over the fence to the pool party? Or was it a spirit person joining in the party? But you've got to be careful when it comes to these phone photographs. Best to use a camera. No downloading apps there. And all this about spirit are only active at night. All these videos and these photographs taken in pitch black or with a single light on, you don't need to do that. Spirit are active at night, yes, because it's quiet, yes, because we're quiet, and yes, because you're more likely to catch them in darkness than in daylight. But speaking as a medium, one who talks to spirit daily, whether it's broad daylight, whether I'm out in the park, whether I'm at the beach, or whether I'm in the restaurant eating a meal, and over on the next table there's a lovely couple and their child is sitting there still joining them from spirit, saying, "Hi Mum, hi Dad, can I please have lunch as well?" Spirit are active all the time. It's through the day, our minds are active, our jobs are active, we've got other things going off, we're full of activity, spirit are full of activity, we don't give it a second thought. But I was once visiting a friend in a hospital, and I was sitting waiting to go in. She had family and friends in at the time, and I was sitting waiting to go in. I thought I won't disturb them, and I'm sitting there out in the waiting room, and I'm talking to this young lad next to me, and he's telling me all about his woes and how he had a bike accident and all this, and he was visiting the lady next to my friend. So I go in to visit Jane and have a chat with her, and as I'm coming out after my visit, there's a person coming out the next room, and I went, "Oh, hope so-and-so's okay. Sorry, I was in the reception earlier on. Was a little bit upset. Has he calmed down? Is he okay? Did he get his visit and all this?" And her face went white as a sheet, because the name I'd mentioned was the person that was also involved in the crash that had brought her friend into hospital, and he had been killed in the accident. But he was sitting there not an hour or so earlier talking to me in reception, breaking his heart, telling me how upset he was that his friend was hurt, but he'd passed away in the accident that had brought her to hospital a week before. Interesting. Spirit are around daily. They're around at any time. They're around when we need them. The ghosts and the ghoulies, the ones that come out at night, are the ones I question. The ones that you only see at night. Are they our fears manifested? Or are they actual spirit activity? It's as much a guessing game as all these ones on Facebook and internets and social media these days, psychics, etc., that are playing guessing games, like holding up a photograph of a hand held in a fist and saying, "What's in my hand?" Now, okay, let's trust them that one day they'll take the photograph and they've got a key in their hand, and the next day, as everybody's took their guess, and believe me, they guess everything, 1,001 guess, somewhere along the line you're going to get a key. But do we trust that the next day on the big reveal that they haven't swapped the item, that was the actual item in the hand, without evidence to show that it was done there and then and at the same time? And I question these guessing games. It's like the Facebook apps, what's your soul name? What is your Native American name? Type in your name, your date of birth, give us your bank details, and we'll tell you. Sorry, again, I shouldn't keep on about this, but as skeptics give us the ammunition to show and the proof, and the challenge to prove spirit activity or ghost activity, these guessing games and psychics who don't give us the evidence bring the job into disrepute. So, and another question I've seen on Facebook so many times this past week: How do we find somebody we can trust when it comes to searching for a psychic or a medium? Two ladies who've posted activity in their house, who've been given every bit of advice from go get an exorcist, go get the Catholic priest in to perform a blessing, to go smudge it, to sit and talk to them yourself and find out who's there, to get the hell out of there fast, it's horrible, you've got a horrible house, or it's demons, they will tell you anything. As always, if it doesn't ring true with you, if it doesn't feel true to you and it doesn't resonate, let it go. Like you're trying to work out the lies from truths from anybody, go with what fits for you. Trust your own gut instinct. We're all psychic. We all have intuition. And if you feel something or sense something and it's got the hair standing up on the back of your neck, trust it. If it's got your gut saying, I don't trust this is not real, then let it go until we get the evidence you're looking for. So those daft phone apps, be very careful what you're looking at on photographs. There's no need to put anybody down for these kind of things. Some of them are inadvertent. Yes, we can see the total fakes. But these guessing games, I don't agree with. It's like going to your doctor, not letting them examine you and say, okay, tell me what's wrong. Without examining you, without taking your blood pressure, your blood samples, and examining you, they can't come up with a diagnosis. Spirit readers, psychics, are not mind readers. So whether it's day or night, spirit will be around. That's why we get those voices in the supermarket or at the doctor's surgery. That's a spooky one when you hear your name called at the doctor's surgery and it's not the receptionist asking you to go see the doctor. But there you go. If it resonates, if it feels right, use your discernment and trust your own inner gut. Okay? Speaking of which, Samantha has a question on Tell Me a Ghost Story website, and she's asking about a photograph on her wall that she sees every single day because it's on the wall. She passes it every single day and she keeps above her dad's flag. Now, what she's noticed is this photograph getting darker and darker. She says it's almost as if a shadow is in front of him in the area of the pic that was lit up, and that the picture is usually always lit up, everything in it is always bright, but for some reason stood in front of her father now in the photograph, it seems to be getting darker and darker, almost to the point that you can't see him in the photograph. She's asking, has anybody experienced this, or is it some kind of sign? She's been wondering whether she should move out, whether she should go elsewhere. She's been asking herself questions. She's been asking her father questions. She talks to him. She admits this. Various different comments have been made about the photograph. First one is obvious. Clean the photograph, the glass in front of it. Take the photograph out of the frame. Is the darkness on the photograph or is it on the glass? I have a photograph of my favourite little dog that we had for 21 years. I had a picture, it's not a photograph, it's a picture that was painted of him. And every now and then I have to not only clean the glass, take the photograph out and clean inside. Because no matter how much you think that photograph sealed in a frame with glass in front of it is clear from house dust, it's not. So first of all, the obvious, clear the physical causes. The other thing is there a candle lit to your father under the photograph on a bench or somewhere that could be allowing for smoke to be affecting the glass. Is it a deterioration in the glass? That kind of thing. Is it a deterioration in the photograph? The photograph paper itself could be deteriorating. So you can't just do an investigation without thinking about it. You've got to investigate the source, the photograph, the frame, the glasswork, the environment it's kept in, before you start thinking, is it Dad trying to warn you that you shouldn't move on? Or is it Dad saying, hey, this is my house, stay here? Or is he saying, time to let memories in the past fade, time to move on? We're no longer here anymore, but we're always in your minds, hearts and memories. So investigate it. Find out why. And as you say, you talk to him. Keep on talking to him. But don't take it as anything other than communication from him. All this about demons and dark entities and having to have it exorcised. I'm sorry. Investigate it further and get somebody who knows what they're talking about. Not the fear and manifestation of fears that you'll find anywhere in the social network. Think about it. Investigate it. Okie dokie. And we're coming up to the last 15 minutes. Now, our Facebook pages, favourite Facebook pages, are, of course, Tell Me a Ghost Story, the one with all the capital letters, and Ghosts. I'll say that again. I will get reminded. I've said it 1,000 times today. Ghosts, the Paranormal, Supernatural, Myths and Legend on Facebook. They've got loads of stories on there, loads of references from across the internet, some personal experiences and questions. We'll keep on trying each week to answer those for you. And thanks for letting us share your stories. Also, keep an eye out on SOC Radio at the end of the month, August 27th, 28th, depending on where you are, for Phil Saracusa sharing his history, story, and ongoing story of the Horsefly Chronicles, the most haunted house in eastern USA. He lives the story daily, and we've got the exclusive with a weekly series from Phil Saracusa. Check him out on Facebook. Check out the Horsefly Chronicles. The paranormal world are fascinated with this story, and we're going to hear all about it on SOC Radio over coming weeks, starting August 27th, 28th at 11 p.m. New York time. That's 4 a.m. UK. Sorry, guys. In the UK, in Europe, it's a rather late night for you. But you can also see, of course, all encores on our YouTube channel. Search YouTube for SOC Radio, and you'll see all our encores on there from those and other shows that we've got coming up. Throughout the week on SOC Radio, we have Lani's Esoteric Brunch. We have Spirit Weavers with Jodie Morrison, talking to people who live their life spiritually. Of course, we have Myth and Legend at this time each week with myself and upcoming other guests and co-hosts on SOC Radio. You can, of course, join spiritualistonline.com, and if you want to share your stories, if you want to develop and learn to speak to ghosts, well, you can't speak to ghosts. They're a replay, as we've mentioned before. But if you want to learn to develop and work with spirit activity, check out the classes and courses and sessions in Open Circle on spiritualistonline.com in the chat rooms. Register with us, and you can see this and a lot more on the website. In the meantime, let's find one last story, shall we? Okay, we've got one question here. Okay, let me just see where this is coming from. This is coming from Jennifer. Oh, a lovely name. Jennifer is asking me on Facebook, what would you do if your child speaks to spirit during the night? Okay, let me read more. She has a 5-year-old who sits on his bed during the night talking to somebody. She's asked the child who it is she talks to, and all he will say is, it's the old man with the silly toy. Okay. First thing I'd be asking Jennifer is, anybody in your past, grandfathers, great uncles, or great-grandfathers, somebody who would have told stories using toys in your past. Look at family and friends first, family, loved ones first. Secondly, don't ridicule the child. Don't put him down for this. This is the most natural thing for children to experience. They are so close to the spirit realm, and they experience spirit when we don't, because we've had it drummed out of us. Encourage, well, I would say, don't put it down, but don't make a big thing of it. All children, in my view, have spirit guides, and they're invisible friends, they're imaginary friends, loved ones who look after them in spirit. So yes, when he wants to talk about him and talk about the stories, talk with him. Let him be the one to tell you what's happening. Don't use auto-suggestion like, was it an old man with this, or what did the old man's... You ask the boy to tell you what's happening, and then research your family history and see who's there looking after your child. There's certainly no harm going off. The little boy is not scared. He's not upset. He's laughing and carrying on with a spirit friend, telling them stories. Maybe your little boy has a reason he can't sleep at night. Find out. Is something worrying him? Something going off around the home that he's not sure about? Talk to him, because spirit are there to help him stay calm. They're telling him stories. They're giving him bedtime stories. It's what we do when children are upset. Does it happen when the child's not well? Why he can't sleep? All these things you need to be asking your child, Jennifer. And if you want to contact me again on Facebook after the show, I'll be willing to talk to you more about the subject. That's a big thing to remember, guys and girls. If we instill our fears in others, and we can sit around campfires and scare the life out of ourselves, what are we doing when we tell children about the bogeyman, or go to sleep, or the monster under the bed's going to get you? Spirit do visit your children. They look after them. It's grandma coming to say hi to her grandchild. It's mum and dad in spirit coming in to say, hey, I'm still here, and I'm pleased to see the children. And they're teaching them, they're telling them bedtime stories. Or it's their little sister and brother visiting from spirit, proud to be a sister or brother. So talk to them, involve them, but let the child tell the story. And I'll talk to you again another time on Facebook if you wish to, Jennifer. Okie dokie. And we're coming up to the last 10 minutes. So again, Rob Lowe, actor, his own new series on A&E Network. I know I've plugged it a lot today, but I'm very interested in see where this develops. First episode came out first week in August on A&E Network in the US, and it's on their YouTube channel. It's also on Rob Lowe's. So check it out. I'm interested to hear what you think about it and their first investigation of the boys' reformatory. Check out Phil Saracusa, The Horsefire Chronicles, coming live to SOC Radio August 27th, 28th. Hope to see you listening into that one. And some big news coming. Some, not all, but some SOC Radio shows will be joining SOC TV, launching later on, hopefully in the next couple of months or so, with some not only educational teaching sessions, courses, but some of our radio shows going live on SOC TV. So if you're looking for your own SOC TV show or your own radio show, get in touch. SOCradioshows@gmail.com and let us know your idea for your own radio show or SOC TV show. In the meantime, check out spiritualsonline.com for all our classes and courses, sessions, open circles, and healing sessions throughout the week, on site and in the chat rooms. I hope I haven't scared you too much with all the stories today. And in the meantime, may Spirit guide and keep you.
Thank you for listening to Tales from Ghosts, the Paranormal, Supernatural, Myths and Legends. Check out these and more at our Facebook group. See you next week for more. SOC Radio aims to provide a wide range of hosts, shows, views and opinions while endeavouring to maintain our 3 vital principles of openness, honesty and integrity, covering all aspects of spiritualism, mediumship, healing, personal and spiritual development for all faiths, religions and walks of life as a way of life. As part of our spiritualistonline.com, Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum, SOC Radio brings you the latest and honest news, views and names in the spiritual field. Check us out and tune in to SOC Radio on spiritualistonline.com. Join in the SOC Radio chat room on the website.